So how was this week of Do You Know Him, the week of Jesus as teacher? How did that go for you?
Well, for me it was interesting enough because I did the introduction to this theme last week, and in the Catholic Church we use a slightly different series of readings during Lent. And yes, we did use the dialogue between Jesus and Nicodemus, but not the part that the other churches were using. So I'd had to kind of prepare the beginning part of it so that I could introduce it. But then for the weekend, we were focusing much more on the part where Jesus speaks about being raised up. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so the Son of Man must be lifted up. And of course, that is Jesus being a teacher, because he draws on the memory and the knowledge of Nicodemus of the history of salvation and pulls that out and speaks of what Nicodemus knows, and then goes on to speak about himself and what he is to accomplish and what he's to undertake. And for us also, we read that, I don't know what other readings you would have had, but we read that in the context of the second book of Chronicles as well, which is just recounting all the terrible things that Israel got up to. and so to hear that, and then to have that sort of teaching of coming out into the open, I found it really quite interesting and quite helpful and really quite relevant for today, because we do have to live out in the open. And you just look at some of the stuff that's going on in the world around us at the moment and in society as a whole, and it's all about what's undercover, what people are doing in the darkness, really. And we just need to come more out into the open, not simply as people of faith and people of religion, but as human beings, decent human beings, live their life in the open.
Yeah.
So what about you?
So for us, it was Mothering Sunday. So we had to that big thing. So we had to cover Mothering Sunday, and it was also an all-age service for us at both churches. So the theme was quite compact for us, but it was still there. And we talked about Jesus' authority as a teacher, as the incarnate Son of God. He is the teacher. And then we also eventually moved into, first of all we told the story of the two men in the houses, the man who built his house on the sand, on the rocks, for the kids, as a means of showing why we need to listen to Jesus, the teacher. And then I found it necessary to summarise what Jesus' teaching was, and how on earth do you do that? So I had very little time to do the sermon this week, so I had to, what is it? And I thought, living life with and for others, and living life for God. And I wrote that down, and I looked at it and thought, oh, that's love your neighbour and love God, that's the Shema. So clearly that lesson was quite deeply ingrained in me. But we spoke about that as a summary of Jesus' teachings of living life with and for others, and living life with and for God. And then we eventually segued back into Mother's Day.
Well, mothers are great examples of that, aren't they?
Well, they're great teachers, yeah.
They are, and I suppose one of the things about parents is that they're teachers, even though they don't kind of explicitly recognise that sometimes. But you just quite naturally get into teaching when you're around children. I think kind of some of the more difficult things in the life of any community, and certainly in the life of any kind of church community, is teaching the older people. And we can't teach an old dog new tricks, and that can be very true with some people sometimes. So that there is a great deal of humility that is needed by us all, I think, to be able to recognise that, well, we do have to learn lessons, and I found myself saying something like that to somebody because we started talking afterwards about Nicodemus. And I said, oh, he's a kind of established older figure in Jewish society. And yet here he is, he comes along and he's looking and he's asking for something new and something a bit different. And there is a good lesson there for older people. And I get a bit older.
As you were speaking, the line came to mind, you must become like little children. You must be prepared to have your world shaped and informed as little children are by their parents, actually. So it's interesting to think of Jesus as teacher, but also to think of that parental aspect of the whole divine, the whole of God.
Sure. Yeah, well, that's why we say the Our Father, isn't it? Just to be childlike and basically giving God the chance as well. Give God the chance to be the one who does teach us and learn us. That's something I say. Confidence. I'm sure most of us do.
Yeah. I think there's a challenge to our society to let just God, just Jesus be the teacher. I think we're far more comfortable having a set of teachers and building our own worldview. I have a friend who once referred to Jesus as her guru and as one of many gurus who informs her life. But I think for the church and for Christians, he is the teacher. He is the one who shapes our worldview. And that can be quite a hard sell sometimes, I think.
It can be, but also we do need to look and see where we can find help to understand things as well, from other sources. And it's just...
Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should not have any other kind of teachers. But I think there is the challenge to hold him up as the teacher.
Well, absolutely, because in the end, he is the way, the truth,
and the life.
And it's drawing out that meaning of truth, I think, and that can be something that we do have to work fairly hard on, without being sort of dogmatic or overbearing about it, because it's very easy to say, well, this is the truth and that's it. But truths and the truth, the best way to demonstrate that is to witness to it, isn't it? And sometimes it's quite simply actions, it's quite simply who you are and what you do, rather than trying to come out with word after word after word, I think.
Because Jesus, well, as well as being a teacher, he was an example. And I guess we need to do the same, as hard as a calling as that is sometimes.
Yeah, because it demands honesty. That's really, I think, what I took from the weekend most of all. That sort of contrast between light and dark, and really moving into the light and being quite determined to be someone part of the church, being in the light.
And that's a really good reflection for Lent as well, actually. Choosing the light.